Hello and good morning. It's Phil Thatch and I'm in downtown Chattanooga once again with the chonk, the 28 to 70 f2. Going to walk around and do a little photo walk and see what sort of photos I can find. I've got about 3 hours to kill this morning, so I should be able to get something. Stay with me and let's see what we can do. I've gotten to where I really enjoy this lens as a flower lens. It's just really nice at 70 millimeters f2. And there's this planter here with these beautiful flowers, kind of homely looking beautiful flowers actually. But I got down low and made a shot with my focus point right on the, I guess it's a stamen, and there's all sorts of out of focus stuff in the background that looks pretty cool, I think. The last time I took this lens out, I made a lot of photos like this where I was photographing flowers at f2, and that's kind of how I started this week, but I definitely changed gears right after this picture. And I'm not going to talk about the complete settings for each picture because this video is going to end up being long. So just know that unless I mention it, everything's at f2, and this one's at 70 millimeters. Here's a photograph I made of a crosswalk sign with a bokeh-fied bus in the background, and this one is 41 millimeters. I set up right here on Broad Street, kind of directly across the street from the Tivoli, stopped it down to f14 and made a few panning blurs. And I was sitting down low because that works really good for panning blurs. And then a gentleman was jaywalking right in front of the Tivoli. And so I quickly zipped it back down to f2 and got my shutter speed up and got a shot of him just directly in front of the Tivoli from a low angle, jaywalking on Broad Street. I thought it turned out pretty cool. This is a panning blur. For this, I stopped down to f14 and slowed my shutter speed to 1/30th of a second. There's the Tivoli sign in the background and a Honda Accord going by. Really like the way this turned out. This one is also 28 millimeters and the same settings. This one's just okay. I just shared it because it was a bicycle and I don't do bicycles that much. But this one is the one that I really like. This is 43 millimeters and I did zip it wide open to f2 really quick and speed my shutter speed up to 1/500th. And I caught this well-dressed gentleman crossing the road there right in front of the Tivoli Theater, and he's in perfect focus and the Tivoli is just slightly out of focus, f2 at 43 millimeters. And a pretty good distance. Just perfect. I'm really happy with the way this shot turned out. Here's a 44 millimeter shot of a fire department hookup. I focused right here where it says AUTOSPKR and made this shot. I thought it turned out really pretty. I sat down in an alley that doesn't get much traffic and just kind of waited, and I did get a low angle, which I think is key in street photography sometimes, shot of someone crossing in front of that alley. Here's the alley shot with the lady crossing, 29 millimeter shot, and I did add a radial gradient vignette to make the surroundings darker, to make her even brighter in the shot. I thought that turned out really nice, a 29 millimeter shot. Made some shots of some pretty mundane things like signs and parking meters and maybe some lights. And then I was at an intersection and this well-dressed person was really flying on a bicycle crossing the intersection, so I made a shot of him. In downtown Chattanooga during business hours, you're either a Morgan Stanley client or you have to pay to park at one of these. And I use the Park mobile app, so I don't have to go up to this kiosk. I just pull up my phone and pay to park. But this is a 33 millimeter shot and this one is a 70 millimeter shot. Both are at f2. Here's the gentleman crossing the intersection on his bicycle. Nicely dressed gentleman, got a tie on, some nice shoes. I like his socks that have someone riding a bicycle just like he is. He's got his book satchel there with probably a laptop in it, and he is heading to work in downtown Chattanooga. This is a 70 millimeter shot. Then I made my way over here to Miller Plaza where I am now, and there's a fountain right over there that I made a couple of photographs of. I don't know if any of those will be any good. And I also made a shot. This is a little concrete, it's not concrete, this is a little brick walking path. And down the path, there's all these signs. And I was just lining up a shot, trying to make the path kind of down the middle of the frame, kind of like that, with this sign, the only thing in focus. And just as I did, a little lady crossed in and started walking up the path. So I got a shot of her coming up the path, and I don't know if I'm going to like the shot with her or without her best, but we'll see. Here's the fountain at Miller Plaza. My focus point was on this waterfall section of the fountain, so this one's out of focus, and these drift
more and more out of focus the further back you get. This is a 28mm shot. Here's the shot of the lady walking up the sidewalk there, and I was making this shot without her in it. My focus point was this sign right here in the foreground. I wish I had focused on this one, because if I had, when she crossed into the shot, she would have been in focus, but I still kind of like it. This is 28mm. This is a 70mm shot of this gentleman with a really fancy bicycle, and I thought he had quite a cool look. By this time, I was joined by my friend Tim Childers, and this fellow was at an intersection there in downtown Chattanooga in a big 18-wheeler, and he was taking a swig of water out of this huge water bottle, and I started to take his picture, and he quit drinking. I said, "No, go ahead and drink some more," and he did. He just turned that thing up, and I got a shot of him at 70mm right there on 7th Street.
So I'm on the urban thread, I think is what it's called, alley, and there's this broken light fixture up here. And I stood up on this step right at this precipice, and I put my camera kind of right here and focused on this broken light fixture, tried to get things level to where the urban thread, all the green piping would be kind of out of focus in the background.
This is the broken light fixture there in the alley, and you can see the light fixture is not even connected to the electricity anymore. It's just hanging by a wire, and the light bulb is broken. But my focus point was right here on this 28mm shot at f2, and you can see even at 28mm, if you're close to minimum focus distance, you can really have a dreamy out of focus background on your shot, if that's what you're looking for. Here's another 28mm shot at f2. My focus point on this one was right here on this nut and the threads in the middle of the nut, and everything else it's almost too out of focus on this particular shot, but I was just kind of demonstrating what you can do with this lens. Kind of almost Alice in Wonderland looking.
I have no idea what this thing is, but I took a picture of it.
This shot's also 28mm, and I really still don't know exactly what this device is, but I thought it was interesting, and I liked the way the wall was painted around it, so I made this shot of it.
So I'm down here with Tim Childers, and he is using his R6 Mark II and the amazing super turbo ultra wide 10-20 f4, and making some interesting pictures. Make sure and check out his channel, Tim Childers Photography. He also has the new Retired Me, which is exceptionally popular, and my favorite, Life in Motion Diaries. And now let's photograph a stack of ashtrays at f2.
This is a 61mm shot of the ashtrays. This is an area with there's a bar inside the building, and in this alley people go outside, I guess, and smoke and maybe even drink a little bit while they're at the bar. And they've cleaned up these ashtrays and stacked them. And I made this shot, and it's just super smooth, the out of focus quality of this lens. The foreground bokeh is amazing, and the background bokeh is amazing as well. 61mm.
Tim and I were walking down Chestnut Street, and this lady was walking in the opposite direction, and she just started posing. We had no conversation whatsoever. She just started posing, and I said, yes, absolutely. Took her picture, and she said, enjoy, and went on. So here's that picture.
This is the lady who just started posing. She saw Tim and I walking down the street with fancy cameras, and the next thing you know, she started posing. So I made this shot of her. This is 60mm wide open at f2, and I thought the shot turned out good of her. I wish this van wasn't in the shot, but I love these bokeh balls over here on the right-hand side of the frame and over here on the left-hand side of the frame. Pretty cool shot of the lady who likes to pose on Chestnut Street in Chattanooga. That was awful nice of her to do that for us. Here's a 28mm shot of something that's not at minimum focus distance, and when you shoot like that, you can get a lot of stuff in focus. This is Second Presbyterian Church, one of the entrances to it. I like this stonework, and I like this area in the background. And the next shot is going to be of this area right here. And in that shot, you can see that this place was made in 1890. So been here a while. This is a 41mm shot.
We've wandered over now to the West End Hotel, formerly Blue Cross Blue Shield. And we're in this little courtyard area with a nice fountain. And this strikes me as a place where people might hang around and do a little drinking before they go to sleep. And I found some evidence of that right here in this little planter is a champagne glass left over from last night. So I made a picture of it.
Now we're in the courtyard area at the bottom of the West End Hotel there in West Village, and I set my camera on the ground and made this 32mm shot of this fountain. I actually got a little bit of water on my front element that I had to wipe off after I made this shot, but I kind of like the way it turned out. And here is the wine glass. I think I called it a champagne glass in the video clip, but I'm sure it's probably a wine glass that was left out overnight, and you can see there's lipstick all over the top of the glass, and I made this shot at 59mm.
We came into the lobby of the West End, and there's this super cool 72 911 in here in perfect condition. Oh, you're good. The camera's facing this way. Anyway, I made a picture of it, and Tim got some pictures of it with the super ultra wide that should be cool, so make sure and look at his video.
Now we're inside the lobby of the West End Hotel, and they have this 1972 Porsche 911, and I made a photograph of its wheel. Couldn't really get a good picture of the car because they had kind of some ropes around it, and so I just made a picture of this wheel, and I like the way it turned out. I think these wheels are called Fuchs. That's what these old Porsche wheels are called. This is a 28mm shot. Now we're heading back up 8th Street. We're about 5 or 6 blocks from the Dome building there in the background, and 4 or 5 blocks from where our cars are parked on 8th Street. I made this photograph of this gentleman crossing the road there.
Tim and I have come up here to the top of the City Park parking garage, which I've been up here several times, but it's the first time I've thought to make a shot looking down at the umbrella alley. And I was getting my shot framed up, and as I did, a group of people came up, and 2 people posed in the umbrella alley while some other people were making photos of them, and I got the photo from above. So let's take a look at that.
Now we're on the top of the City Park parking garage, and the Millennium Bank sign up there, that's the elevator that is poking up out of the top of the building there. And I thought it was cool to get this photograph of this much newer Porsche. This is a Porsche Cayman, and I like the way this shot turned out. Also, I like the bird on top of the sign, and I like the cloudiness that you can see some detail in the clouds. And here's the shot looking down at the umbrella alley that I take pictures of all the time, or at least regularly, but I've never taken a picture of it from above. And I was getting my shot framed up, and these people started walking up and they were pointing, and the next thing you know, they started a little impromptu cell phone photo shoot, and I captured it from above. Thought it turned out pretty cool. I did put a radial gradient on this to darken the frame and let the frame slowly get brighter until it reached the area where the subject is, which is these people posing there. This is a 43mm shot from the top of the parking garage.
We're still playing around with this parking garage. I like the architecture of this place, even though it's just a concreteness. And I made a shot looking down here, and I made another shot. Tim went down to this level and made a shot looking over at Lookout Mountain there in the background, and I made a shot of him there. And I made a shot before those looking down right here, but I can't get quite wide enough. I'm 28 to 70, but Tim's 10 to 20 on full frame. So I called him over to see what he thinks of the composition, and maybe he'll like it and get a shot, and maybe he won't. We'll see.
This is a 28mm shot. That parking garage has a circular drive to get out of it, and I look down the top of it in the center, and I don't know what this machine is, but it looks like this is some sort of future dystopia, and in order to get out of here, you have to go through this chopping machine. I don't know. Anyway, it's a 28mm shot at f2, and here is looking in the opposite direction in this architecture of the parking garage. And when I made this shot, I thought, man, my 28mm lens is not wide enough, but I actually ended up liking the way this shot turned out. I'm looking forward to seeing Tim's video where he made a shot of this same composition, but at 10mm. Here's a shot of the West End Hotel, the place that had the Porsche 911 in the lobby. I'm not focusing on the hotel, obviously. I'm focusing on this pipe right here, which is in focus, and the West End is out of focus in the background. But here's Tim. He's making a photograph of Lookout Mountain in the distance with that super fancy 10 to 20mm f4 lens. Very hard to find that lens. It's priced, I think, at $2,100 or $2,200, but if they were selling it for $3,000, I bet it would still be on back order all the way across the world. But Tim's got one. This is another shot looking down at the architecture of the parking garage, 70mm shot f2, but this time I'm focused on the top of this pipe right here, and everything else is dreamily out of focus. I like the way it turned out. Kind of a what in the world is going on here sort of a shot. And now here's a shot at 50 millimeters, still wide open at f2, looking across at Lookout Mountain in the distance. And this is a picture of West End from the top of the parking garage. I love the way this shot turned out. Just a really beautiful building. And I remember that building from when I was a kid. A long time ago, we would drive past that, and I always thought it was a fascinating looking building. Used to be the home of Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they have since moved. On this shot, I wish I had stopped down. Most of my f2 shots, I was happy with being at f2, but this one is f2, and I'm focused on this nearest smokestack or chimney, and it's kind of got all these buildings in the background out of focus, and I should have shot this at 5.6 or 8 or even 11, because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 churches in this. There's a hotel over there, and this is Cameron Hill, and these buildings on the top. This is the new home of Blue Cross Blue Shield in Chattanooga. 60 millimeter shot at f2, but I should have shot it at f8 or f11. Now we're not on the very top floor of the parking garage. We've come down, we just walked down to the 4th floor. The top floor is the 5th, and I set my camera on the ground and made this 43 millimeter shot. Only 1/25th of a second for this one because there's not a lot of light there, even at f2. And I like the way all these 4s for the 4th floor are painted on every other of these supports for the ceiling above. Now we're back down on ground level, and we walked down the umbrella alley and made a right, and in that alley is this bicycle, and every street photographer in Chattanooga has made photographs of it, and Tim decided he would get a shot of it with his super ultra wide, and I decided to get a photograph of Tim getting a photograph of it. This is a 47 millimeter shot of Tim making a shot of the famous street photography bicycle.
So Tim and I are down here on Broad Street, and there's some EPB, that's the power company in Chattanooga, guys working in the street right in front of the James building, which is a common place for us to photograph. And somehow they let us take their picture, so we did.
Now we've come up a couple of blocks and we're working on some photography near the Tivoli Theater, and we saw this gentleman working on the power. He works for EPB, that's Chattanooga's electric power board, and someone's down in that hole and he's observing from above. And I made this shot at 40 millimeters, and then after that, they noticed us and they started posing for us. And this guy posed for this picture. I thought he did a really nice job posing. And this is a 66 millimeter shot. But this one's been heavily edited because the original version looked like this because there was a pole in the way. But I took the pole out, and I think it looks better without the pole. Right in that same area, you can see the electric power board van. This lady was riding down the road on her bicycle. There is a bicycle lane, which she is in. And I've made her photograph. I've got her towards the right-hand side of the frame, and sometimes I would prefer that she be over in the left-hand side of the frame, but I think it works pretty good with her in the right-hand side of the frame in this one, and the background on the left-hand side of the frame out of focus. This is a 70 millimeter shot. Here's another 70 millimeter shot of this interesting Toyota van. It's a right-hand drive van, so it's imported. It was for somebody else's domestic market. I don't know if it was Europe or Japan or where. But this person has definitely fixed it up. It's got a modern awning attached to these modern roof rails. So it looks like they're making it into a camper. Pretty cool. And I made this photograph, and the person driving the van waved at me after I made the photo. So he was enjoying the attention in his cool right-hand drive van. I don't know what's in this box, but they really don't want you to get to it because they've got this lock. If you know the combination, you can get in, or you can just undo these 3 Phillips head screws and open that box pretty easily. This is a 32 millimeter shot. I saw this gentleman walking up from the left, and I was walking down the sidewalk with Tim, and I just sat down on the ground because shots like this look better from a low angle, and waited for him to cross. And in the process of sitting down, I bumped into the wheel, and this is at f2.5 instead of f2. Still looks good at f2.5. I like everything about this shot. I wish he was turned to the right just a little bit more, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. 70 millimeters f2.5.
I have had a blast hanging out with Mr. Tim Childers today. Wave to the nice people, and we've just had a really good time doing street photography. One of us using the chonk, and the other one of us using the most amazing ultra-wide lens you can buy right now. So we hope you enjoyed it. If Tim makes a video of this, I'll put a link to it at the end of the video, and I'll definitely put a link to his photography channel at the end. So check that out. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Bye-bye.